You can probably guess where I'm going.
Yes.
I'm afraid I don't think it's by Britain Revere.
Okay.
Welcome to WatchMojoUK, and today we're counting down our picks for the most heartbreaking valuations where people's dreams were crushed. Be sure to stick around for our number one pick because it's an absolute gut punch.
This one, to me, doesn't look right at all.
Why?
Before we begin, we publish new content every day, so be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos.
Number 8. Lousy statue.
When you unwrap this, my heart really skipped a beat, because it's one of my favourite tribal African figures.
The chance of a fake item being revealed on the Roadshow is one of the biggest draws of the programme, but sometimes you can't help but feel bad for the owner. This gentleman brought in what he believed to be a figure from Gabon's Kota tribe.
And they put these on the bones of their ancestors to protect them.
These African tribal statues have a shockingly high value, even recently being auctioned off at £250,000.
But unfortunately, this one is a very fine copy.
Right.
It's slightly the wrong size. This was probably made in about 1980.
Expert Ronnie Archer Morgan had to be brutally honest with the guest when he revealed it was simply a copy, not the genuine article, and only about 40 years old at most. The guest was understandably gutted by this news, but at least the statue wasn't worthless and could still fetch 150 quid.
Unfortunately, not the $250,000 that one of them actually made.
It's a lot more than I paid for it, so I'm happy.
Number 7. Prestigious paintings.
And the David Roberts?
Still not keen on it.
This guest inherited some extremely valuable items from her grandmother, including these 3 masterful paintings. One of these paintings would prove to be especially valuable, being painted by renowned English artist Frederick Cayley Robinson. That is, unless it was a fake.
Well, he was a very famous artist, but this is a fake. It's a fake signature because he was so important.
Which it did end up being. If it was real, it would have been worth £6,000. That's got a sting.
It's dated 1862. Well, he died in 1864, so I think they're trying to mislead you that he literally is having a last stroke of his brush when he painted this. That's why it's not so good.
But luckily for this guest, the other items she brought in were the real McCoy, and she walked away with high valuations on them, so it wasn't all doom and gloom. Number 6. Ancient Offering. This archaeology student is keen to have her item valued. She believes it's an ancient death offering, which she's picked up in a flea market.
The thing that worries me is that this would normally be what we call a B disc, BI, which actually has a hole in the middle.
Yeah, I've seen those.
Her chatty and bubbly persona gives the impression she's desperate for the expert to give it his seal of approval. The build-up is long and tense, so when the reveal comes that it's a reproduction and essentially worthless, it's both excruciating and hilarious in equal measure.
How old is it?
Couple of years.
Oh no! Are you joking? Are you joking?
The guest's eager anticipation is replaced with a wry smile and a general sense of despair. Who would have thought the idea of valuing antiques on national TV could be so gripping?
Thank you for being so
Oh,
brave.
I'm so upset about
I'm
that.
sorry.
Number 5. So close.
And do you know who she is? Yes, Lady Grantham.
It's got to be said, this is a stunning portrait. This watercolour piece was accredited to Sir Thomas Lawrence, the famous English painter born in the late 1700s. Funnily enough, the lady in the image was Lady Grantham, from the same place the episode was hosted from. But was it really by Lawrence?
There are areas that are very, very like Sir Thomas Lawrence. Yes.
As is the case with many fraudulent paintings, it was the hands that clued us in on its authenticity. It was unlikely to actually be by him.
But it's very close, and I think we would be happy to say something like studio of.
The story does have a happy ending, however, as despite not being by the man himself, it was likely made by someone who worked alongside him, meaning she got a handsome valuation of £1,000. Not a bad consolation prize. Number 4. The Beatles autograph.
There is a problem, and that's why I ask you about provenance with these.
Any sort of memorabilia linked to the Fab Four is bound to be worth a pretty penny, As such, these two sisters thought they had their hands on a whole heap of money with this signed photo of the Beatles. Their father met many famous faces during his time as a Hollywood stuntman, and it seems George, John, Paul and Ringo were among those. But when expert John Foster took a look at the two different autographs, he pointed out how different they both were.
This one, to me, doesn't look right at all.
Why?
You'll see a stiffness in the signatures. These are much more flowing. You look at the way they tail off.
Yeah.
He said this was likely because the photograph one was fake and written by secretaries and such. While the other pieces were most likely authentic, this still appeared to upset the guests.
And it's a shame because obviously that would be
wonderful.
Number 3, the inscription.
So Stella was the name that he gave to a girl called Esther Johnson, that he'd been a tutor for, I think, when she was 8 years old.
Everyone loves to see a fake, the owners of the item accepted, of course. And sadly for this couple, their metal box turned out to be one of them. The box was inscribed with "The gift of Stella to Dean Swift," suggesting that it was a gift from Esther Johnson to writer Jonathan Swift. But, as it happens, it's fake, and an obvious one too.
The material that this little caddy is made out of wasn't invented until about 1743. So how could Stella have given this box to Dean Swift?
No.
She couldn't have done.
The metal the box was made from, Sheffield plate, wasn't invented until after the death of Stella. The couple's hopes were dashed. It's brutal, but also a bit funny, if we're honest. Sorry.
It's probably worth 20, 30, 40 pounds as an object, but there's still that interesting and intriguing story connected to it.
Number 2, glass.
See those? You know what they are? They're goosebumps.
Right.
How much would you spend on a cup? Well, probably not £800, regardless of what you think it's worth. This unlucky antiquer thought he got the deal of a lifetime when he picked up a 1,000-year-old Islamic glass, which usually has an absurd price point.
But the letters are very stylised and angular instead of being cursive.
And so what does it say?
It's a benediction.
But it was up to wine and glass expert Andy McConnell to bring him crashing back down to earth when he revealed it wasn't the ancient piece of glassware he thought it was.
Well, is it right? His fundamental question,
Absolutely,
is this right?
Yeah. It's not right.
Instead, this cup was designed using acid, which wasn't a technique introduced at the time, which means this guest was down £800 on his would-be investment. Ouch.
But I would urge you, British Museum should be your next stop.
Number 1, £1 million portrait. Imagine thinking you're about to become a millionaire, only to get your dreams go up in flames on national television. This time, the guest has a painting he believes to be by Peter Lely, which would date it to the 1600s. And the Roadshow expert suggests that, if it were in fact a Lely, it would be worth around £1 million. But, of course, it isn't quite as it seems.
Shadow of a dream. In other words, it's not even by a studio assistant. I think it's a much later copy.
Okay. It's actually a 19th century copy, deliberately antiquated and made to resemble a 16th century origin. The guest is, naturally, devastated, as we would be.
A little bit of clunkiness in the drawing of the hands.
In the end, it's only worth about £600. Not a bad amount by any means, but it's not exactly £1 million, is it? This show can be so cruel, and this is a great example of that.
Sorry to let you down.
That's all right.
Have you ever purchased an item you thought was real, but turned out to be fake? Let us know in the comments below.
And if I'm wrong, come back and kick me. Please.
Thank you.
Do you agree with our picks? Check out this other recent clip from WatchMojoUK and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.